I would like to call the Public Safety Commission of the City of Dalton meeting to order. We need an agenda approval with two changes. The first change under agenda approval is a moment of reflection. And the second change is under the approval of minutes, old business. We need a motion to call.
I'll make that motion.
Who made the motion?
Mr. Mathis.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Mathis made the motion.
Second motion.
Second by Mr. Walker. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. At this time, I would like to call for a moment of reflection as we pay our tribute and honor to Kenneth Willis, who was a longtime member of this commission, one of the longest serving members of this commission, an outstanding citizen, an outstanding part of public safety in the city of Dalton at one time, and for 23 years with the State Patrol. At this time, let us take a moment to reflect in our own way. Amen. At this time, I would like to call on our city attorney to give the oath of office to our newest member, incoming member, Truman Whitfield.
Good morning, Mr. Whitfield.
Yeah.
Do you have before you the written oath of office, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and if I may, there is an item 5 in that oath. If you would mind deleting that, that's not part of your oath. The official one that is in the possession of our clerk. So once you take office, when you have time to take office and sign the original, and then I will sign it as well.
Okay, make sure I understood. You broke up a little bit. Delete 5 off of the copy that I have, and then go by and see the clerk and sign the copy he has. The original.
That's correct.
Okay.
And as part of the oath, there are 2 requirements. One is a requirement of our city charter. That's the first paragraph. That one I'm actually going to ask you to repeat after me. The
Okay.
section that begins, in addition thereto, that section of the oath is required by the state constitution. I will read that portion. You're not required to repeat it. It's simply to swear or affirm your that portion.
Okay, I understand.
So if you'll raise your right hand for me, sir.
Okay.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Truman Whitfield,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will,
that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as member of the City of Dalton Public Safety Commission
as member of the City of Dalton Public Safety Commission
during my continuance in office.
during my continuance in office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay. And then you're not required to repeat this, Mr. Whitfield, but I do need to make the same swear. In addition thereto, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due the state of Georgia or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state which by the law of the state of Georgia I am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Georgia, and I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state. Do you so solemnly swear or affirm, Mr. Whitfield?
I do.
All right. Thank you, sir, and thank you for your willingness to serve on the commission. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Truman, We look forward to your service. We appreciate your becoming members of the agenda. And we think excellent. We appreciate it. This time I need an approval of the minutes of the June 23rd meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Walker.
Yes, that's a second.
Any questions, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign, they are approved. This is for the police department report.
All right, gentlemen. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Let me know if you can't. The police department's June crime statistics will begin on page 5 in your packets. The crime statistics are fairly positive overall. Part 1 crimes have decreased around 21% in comparison to the June 2019 numbers. So we're very pleased with that. Our calls for service are still trending upwards in comparison to what they have been traditionally and what they were in 2019. Traffic crashes were still down this past month, approximately 21.1% in comparison to June of 2019. You'll notice in the part 2 offenses, which is the second table on that page, that code violation enforcement is leading the way in the part 2 offenses. Violations increased from 110 in May of 2020 to 209 in June of 2020. We're focusing our efforts on trying to remove some of the blight and some of the problems that have been identified in neighborhoods. So hopefully we're going to have some success with that. Citations were up for the month of June in comparison to the 2019 numbers. If you look at the very bottom table on the page, when you look at the June 2020 calls, we answered a little bit over 4,300 calls. Last year in the same time period, we only answered around 3,200. So our activity has been up. You'd have thought it would have went down with COVID, but we're staying extremely busy. Page 6 is the next page in your packet. This is the 5-year crime trends. Overall, everything looks pretty good. There were a few more robberies in 2020 compared to what we had in 2019. But if you look at the 5-year average, we're not really that far off of what the normal trend has been. We also saw, I've seen more motor vehicle thefts this year than we did in the same time period last year. But when you look at the 5-year trend, it isn't all that far out of the ranges that we've seen previously. The 2 crime categories that have increased year to date, as I've already mentioned, are robbery and motor vehicle theft. And we will be monitoring those to see if there's something that we can do to help address those going forward in the year. But the analysis of the trends shows that property crimes are significantly lower than the normal range, and violent crime numbers are slightly lower than the 5-year average. Page 7 in your packets is a June 2019 compared to June 2020 comparison. Nothing really jumps out on that page as being all that unusual, other than if you look at the public roadway crashes, which is at the very bottom of that table on the left side. We've had 563 roadway crashes this year compared to 714 in 2019. That's going to be directly tied to the traffic counts being down due to COVID, business closures, and other things. But now that everything's opening up, we're edging up closer to what the normal average for crashes per month is. You'll see that calls for service for the year are up by about 3,000 calls compared to what they were in the same time period in June of 2020. So we are staying very busy, and our staffing levels has remained fairly constant. We've had a few folks out with COVID along the way, but we're still staffing full shifts and able to meet the increased call volume. Page 8 in your packet starts the significant incidents that were investigated. In the very first opening paragraph there, it talks about there were 2 robberies that were reported during the month of June, and arrests have been made on those cases. The very second report on that document is titled "Person in Crisis." Over the last couple of months, de-escalation and crisis intervention have been topics throughout the country. See that our personnel are embracing the de-escalation and crisis intervention training that we've been employing for years, and that we are using the resources available through the state to help address some of those mental health issues and get people to appropriate treatment versus necessarily being arrested like they have been in the past. On page 9, you're going to see that we had a bomb threat that we investigated during the month of June. Kind of an oddball case. It turned out just to be some phone accessories and charging stuff that was in there. But we were blessed to have an officer that is a EOD trained professional from the military that was available to go in and immediately look at the device and determine that it was simply a charger and not a homemade improvised explosive device. So we weren't required to have a prolonged shutdown of the Georgia departments and evacuating the premises for hours while we waited for the GBI bomb team to show up. Very blessed with that it came out the way it did. Our crash statistics begin on page 10 in your packet. And overall, the crash numbers look fairly good. Injuries and injured crashes decreased in comparison to May. Angle and rear end crashes were still the most prevalent during the month of June. And as always, failure to yield is a leading contributing factor in injury crashes. Walnut Avenue had the highest number of crashes in June, which is within the norms. It's the highest traffic volume within the day in and day out. The high crash day during the month of June was on Thursday. It was just slightly higher than Fridays and Mondays. The high crash time was during the lunch rush from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that's not all that unusual. Sometimes we'll see it peak out between the evening hours between 4 and 7 p.m. But this month just happened to be higher traffic crashes during the lunch time. And the very last page of our crash statistic reports talks about our selective enforcement and actions we've taken to address the areas that have the higher injuries and crashes. They did 15 enforcement details during the month of June, which resulted in 153 violations being identified. And not all of those are citations to court. Portions of those are warnings. So it's pretty evenly distributed there. If you have any specific questions about the crime statistics or crash statistics that I've discussed, I'd be happy to answer those for you. If not, I present the crime and crash statistics for the month of June for your approval.
volume is down. I can't hear what.
I'm having issues hearing Mr. Weaver's audio.
I
Yeah.
am too.
Yes.
Are we ready for me to transition to the financial report?
I think we're waiting to get
Well-
a motion and a vote.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second that motion.
And then Mr. Walker made the second. All those in favor, by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign.
Aye.
If you're ready, I will go ahead and move forward to the financial report. And I'm still having difficulty hearing Mr. Weaver, so if y'all aren't ready for me to move forward, if somebody else will let me know, and I won't.
No, we're ready. Go ahead.
Financial report begins on page 14 in your packets. And that is for the June financial report for the Dalton Police Department. Year to date, we've expended approximately 48% of our 2020 budget. And we're a little bit over halfway through the year. Currently around 3% under budget. There are some areas that we're going to be having to look at closely as we move forward in the year. Those are primarily associated with expenses tied to COVID response and the compensation and other things tied to that. We're confident that we can make adjustments within our current budget to meet those needs without having to have additional funding added. If you have any questions about the pages contained in the financial report, I'd be happy to answer those for you. But as we stand right now, we are confident that we should be able to make it through the year with our allocated funding levels. If you have questions, I'll answer them for you, but if not, I submit for your approval.
I think Ms. Weaver's calling for a motion to approve the financial report.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Whitfield. Any questions? Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Are you having difficulty hearing me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir, we are, Mr. Weaver.
I don't know what happened, Jason.
I know our IT staff is a couple of buildings over. We've tried to let them know maybe they can come by shortly. We'll try to do the best we can.
On the computer.
I understand.
I'm Bruce. We use it.
Can y'all hear us better?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, there's
Yes, there's a reverb.
feedback, so you probably have to close one or the other.
Okay, how's that?
Much better.
That's good.
Can you hear it now?
Yes.
That's it.
All right.
Thanks, Bruce. Now you're an IT guy too, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
I'll I'm right next door. Whenever y'all are done, I'll come get it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Jason, for
Yeah.
arranging that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Written directive review.
Yes, sir. There are 7 policies that were up for review this month. Those 7 policies were forwarded to Gandy, as always, and he and Captain Scott worked through those. The very first policy up was firearms. The most significant change to that policy was the addition of the range rules that you will see in there. And what had occurred is that with the CALEA standard, it required that we actually list the official range rules for the range we use. And those were added in there, and it matches what Whitfield County requires agencies that use their range to utilize when they're on that facility. There are a few other slight wording changes, but the most significant was just the adding of the range rules. So the next policy up is 2.27, which was the employee in and out processing. Revision date, some slight wording changes, and the appendixes were updated to make sure that we had the most current forms for the out processing. 4.9 is the next policy in your packet. That is the arrest and arrest warrants. The significant change in this policy was the addition of the rules of conduct section that stated that there is a duty to intervene if an officer observes an action that's outside of policy or violates law or clearly established procedures. So that already existed in our rules of conduct 2.14, but now it exists inside the arrest policy just to strengthen that. That kind of ties back to the national trend of, we've always, or not always, but for a significant period of time have had the duty to intervene in our policy. But as we get these approved in the future, we're going to strengthen those things in the language in different portions of the policy to make sure that it is stressed and people truly understand the significance of that. 6.9 is the active threat policy. There's a lot of wording changes in there, but overall, it was just modified to meet our practices. A few years back, we started having EMS and fire respond to the incidents with us and stage and do different stuff, and now it more clearly defines what their roles are and what the roles of the responding officers are. So it's more of a housekeeping issue than anything. 7.3 is the Whitfield County Child Abuse Protocol. You'll notice that policy is all in blue ink on your screen because we basically just had to remove the previous version and put the new version of the Whitfield County Child Abuse Protocols. And a lot of that was tied to the greenhouse relocating, and they had some changes in their rules and procedures and other things. So the new Child Abuse Protocol was just inserted to replace the previous version. Most of the changes in the actual Child Abuse Protocol are very minor, but it does now reflect how the greenhouse is doing business, and it's pretty straightforward. 7.6 is the sexual assault policy, and there were a few changes in that policy, but it was more of a getting our current practice into the policy there, because over time we'll identify things that can be done better, and it just takes a little bit before the policy actually gets revamped to match those. And then the final policy is 7.17, which is criminal intelligence. This one's just some simple wording changes. There's no real substantive changes at all. If you've got questions about any specific policy or page in the policy, I'd be happy to go through those with you. But with it being 7 policies and numerous pages, I didn't go over them individually, each specific change. If you have questions, I'll answer them. If not, I submit those policy revisions for your approval. And as I've already noted, Gandy has reviewed those, and they are consistent with the law.
They're all in order, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Gandy. Thank you, Cliff.
You're very welcome.
We need a motion to approve the policies as presented by the chief. I would like to simply, we need a motion.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second,
and that was by
Mr. Mathis.
Mr. Mathis. Sorry, I can't Can't recognize your voice. I can't recognize it. Any discussion, any comments? I would just like to say I'm liking the fact that you are beginning to tie our policies into the CLIA regulations. I think that will be helpful as we try to deal with a number of situations with policies. So I like that. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. They are approved. At this time, I would like to go back to old business. I'm sorry that I overlooked that as we started the meeting. The only old business is that Dr. Viamani, who is unable to be with us today, wanted us to be aware that we are studying the update on the PAOB for officers. I think we need to do a little more discussion about this. I think we will continue to talk with the city administrators and with the others involved in that. So he wanted a report on that. And he also is wanting us to be aware of we're working to increase recruitment to include minorities and retainment, and he feels that PAOB would help us with that policy. So I just wanted to add those to the minutes of the meeting at his request. Do you have any questions? I don't believe it's an action item. This time I'd like to call on Chief Todd.
Good morning, gentlemen. This morning I have a fairly brief report, honestly, so we'll jump right into our statistical report. On page number 119 is just the synopsis of the month. You'll see that our monthly fire responses were up a little bit, but nothing too mentionable there as far as fires goes. Obviously, our largest number of incidents we responded to in June was rescue medical. They were up as compared to previous months in 2020. However, as we'll look at the 4-year comparison later, you'll see that those numbers are pretty much coming into line with the previous 3 years. But overall, we responded to total incidents of 295 incidents for the month of June. And then looking on pages 120 through 121 is a breakdown categorically of all of our calls, our incidents responded to. Again, you'll see that we responded to a total of 10 fires and the type of fires that make that up. We did respond to 3 building fires. However, all 3 of these building fires were small in nature. And I think we had a couple of kitchen fires, and all contained to either the cabinetry or the stove and cooking surface itself. One of them was a fire as a result of an oxygen machine that was in use while somebody was trying to smoke. But all resulted in minor damage. And on page number, you don't have to turn there yet. On page 123, you'll see our dollar loss figure. And ironically, our largest loss due to fires was actually in passenger vehicle fires rather than structure fires. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, because you see that we had $61,000 worth of fire damage. However, the majority of that was in vehicles. Then again, looking at the next category, which 62.37% of our calls were a result of medical calls. And we are seeing an uptick in our COVID-related responses. Fortunately, the several months ago, Department of Health began to release not names or specific information, but the location of those that had tested positive. And we are seeing the results of that with several of our calls where we are being notified upon our response that we are going to a COVID positive location. So we're able to take appropriate measures. However, we have implemented some modified protocols where our personnel are required to wear masks regardless of COVID positive notification or not. That way we can better protect ourselves as well as members of the public. But I'll have you to turn to page number 122. 122 is our civilian casualty. And this occurred on the 19th of June. This was the result. This is what I was talking about. The gentleman that was smoking while utilizing an oxygen machine. He was actually dead on our arrival. But the fire damage to the actual apartment was very, very minimal. And actually most of the fire was contained to the individual himself, but he did succumb to his injuries as a result of that fire. Therefore, we have to list him as a fire death. Next is on page number 123. What I was telling you about is our loss ratio. We had a total percent saved of 97.55%. Which is good. And as I've brought to your attention a minute ago, you'll see that we only listed a total loss of $5,350 as a result of building fires. However, our passenger vehicle fires totaled $53,500. There is a typo or a data entry mistake there. You see that we actually had more loss than we did pre-incident values. So we'll be correcting those and resubmitting those reports to FEMA next month. But on pages 124 through 133, this is just informational. That's a list of each incident that we responded to. And I would be glad to answer any questions anyone may have on any of those incidents specifically. And if there are none, we will turn to page 134. 134 through 136 is our incident type period comparisons. Looking at a 4-year comparison, and just want to look at the 311, the medical assist calls. You'll see what I was talking about, how we're getting back up to honest comparison of the previous 3 years. Looking at 2019, see that we ran 180 medical calls in the same time period last year. This in June we ran 168. So we're starting to see our calls tick back up in that category. Other than that, there's nothing that really jumps out that is different compared to the previous 3 years. But we do see on page number 136, when you look at comparing to last year, you see that we had 295 calls for June of 2020 compared to 359. Most of that is attributed to still being a little bit lower on the medical side, medical calls. And then on page 137 and 138, this is our our response time analysis. On page 137, you'll see our emergency response. Average response time is 3 minutes and 31 seconds. And our non-emergency response time is 4 minutes and 39 seconds, all well below the national recommendation. Page number 139 is our medical incident study. The number of medical incidents involved in this study is 184. Out of the 184, EMS was on scene prior to Dalton Fire Department 62 times, and we were on scene prior to them 130, or 71% of the medical responses. Dalton Fire Department was on scene prior to Hamilton EMS. And on page number 140 is our training division monthly report. During the month of June, we conducted our NFPA 17 compliant surface water rescue refresher course. Well, this is something we do annually. And also during the month of June, Dalton Police Department delivered a course to all of our personnel on active threat response and tactical movement. Got a bunch of good reviews and a bunch of good feedback from our personnel concerning this, and hopefully see a lot more of this moving forward. But very, very good class, very well done by Chief Cason's personnel and officer sailors. We also began we did sessions 1 and 2 of our 40-hour EMT and paramedic refresher course. This is continuing education. It's required annually. And as well, we played host to Georgia Fire Academy's 80-hour fire department management course. All in all, there were 12 students enrolled. This is something we hope to continue to build upon as being more or less a training hub for the Georgia Fire Academy and hosting more classes moving forward. We're able to get more people in our area enrolled in these classes, and it becomes more available is what our hopes are. But more importantly, we're able to get more of our people involved in these trainings at a lot lower cost. But all in all, our training hours for the month of June was 2,307 hours. We did have one company officer attend fire department management at GPSTC. This more or less was a proctored testing event. But that is the only outside school that we had for the month of June. And moving on to our Prevention Division monthly report on page number 141, you'll see that we conducted a total of 100 inspections during the month of June. The majority of those were site inspections. And then public relations, as you know, our public relations is down due to COVID, both to protect our people inside as well as members of the public, not to encourage gatherings. But we did participate in 4 events, and we're able to reach 29 citizens total with fire safety. We also had one event where we installed smoke detectors. This was during one of our incident responses that we did that. Total 2 residents reached with that. Pages 142 through 147 is our inspections by type for the month of June. That's more informational than anything. I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of those. And if there's no questions there, pages 148 through 153 is also informational. This was the violations that were noted during our inspections and what the violations were. And if there are no questions, that is our June statistical report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If there are none, I would ask for the commission's approval for the June statistical report.
We need a motion to approve.
That motion?
Mr. Walker, need a second?
Second.
By Mr. Whitfield.
That's correct.
Any other discussion? I would simply like to add a statement from Dr. Viamani that he feels that you're making good progress on the Narcan and the training and procurement by EMS. Chief, do you care to make any comments on that?
Yes, I got a few comments at the conclusion, but yes, we received word yesterday that our Narcan is a go. We're simply in the phase right now of securing a vendor for that, because this will come we will have to take on this expense. It's approximately $70 for dosage. It'll be intranasal doses, and once after we have secured the Narcan, then Hamilton EMS has agreed to provide training in 3 consecutive days to all of our personnel, so that we can put this put this in service and be able to have this ability, and then we'll move on to the epi from there. So yes, Dr. Viamani's played a very important and vital role in us being able to do this. But we've been waiting on a prescription just to find out that Dr. Nicely said we don't need a prescription. So so we're on go now. I'm just waiting on the vendor packet to come in, and we will order our Narcan and move forward. Hopefully by our next month meeting, we will have the Narcan in service on all of our first out apparatus.
I think that says a great deal, and I'm very pleased that all that is happening. And Anthony, I think you have been a part of all of this, that you have been working with Dr. Viamani as a result of the meeting that was held at the Trade Center several months ago. And so I think we're seeing the fruit from that meeting. And I thank you also, Anthony, for your involvement with Dr. Viamani. I know that he is very passionate about protecting early responders. So thanks to all of you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Or have we already voted?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, you hadn't yet.
Okay, we have the motion is on the floor, I think, by Mr. Walker and Mr. Whitfield. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It is approved.
Aye.
Okay. Next is our June financial report. That's page number 154. As everyone can see, most all of our categories are well in line with where we should be at this point of the year. Overall, we're currently approximately 5.6% under budget for where we should be this time of the year. There are a couple of lines that are stretched a little thin, but I'm starting to see, I've been monitoring those, and I'm starting to see those come back in line. One of those is our, as I've mentioned in prior months, is our maintenance, apparatus maintenance line. Currently it's at the end of June at 77.5% expended, but we're starting to see it slow down a little bit. So we're hoping that will not need any action as far as it goes. But worst case scenario, I would assume that all we would have to do is just move money from another budget line. But all in all, financially, we're right in line with where we should be, and actually a little bit lower. We do have some projects that are coming up. One project waiting on another one. In particular, the capital outlay will begin to utilize some of those funds. We're just waiting on the roof at Station 1 to begin. But all in all, like I said, we're 5.6% under budget currently, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. If not, I'd ask your approval for our June financial statement.
We need a motion to approve.
I make that motion.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Mathis. Second.
Second by Walker.
Second by Mr. Walker. Any questions, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
It is approved.
And
Jason, did we have any public comments come in?
Mr. Chairman, I've checked the mailbox several times and there have been no public comments related to the Public Safety Commission agenda or anything related to Public Safety Department.
Okay,
I just got a couple of comments, just to bring the commission up to date on a couple of things that is not actionable items. Just wanted to bring y'all's attention to a couple of things that we are doing and to anticipate moving forward. Number one, we did our pickup truck. One of the 3 vehicles that we ordered for 2020 has come in. We're currently just waiting on the upfitting. It's about 5 to 6 weeks on that. All this is due to COVID. The Station 1 roof project, and Jason may have more of an update than I do, but we got an email this morning that the contractor is still waiting on the shop drawings for the roof. But as soon as those come in, I anticipate that the roof replacement will begin on Station 1 after that. We're also working on some RFPs for Cascade and for the roof at Station 5. Hopefully we'll have that ready to present to council and the commission next month, so we can move forward on that. And we have awarded a bid for our records management system. It went to emergency reporting, and we were very fortunate in this that the bid that we awarded is actually going to save us money as compared to what we were spending for Firehouse. So that is a good thing. Also, I'll be having a new employee to present to the commission next month. We have rehired one of our former employees under the new policy that was passed a couple of months ago, and I'll be bringing him over next month, the next month's meeting, for your confirmation on him. But we did rehire him from Whitfield County, and look forward to having his services here for us. I just wanted to bring the commission up to date on those things. So thank you.
thank you. Any questions of the chief? Hearing none, I would like to say thanks to everybody who pulled this meeting together, especially to Jason, to the IT staff, to Jesse, to Bruce, and to people unknown, because I assure you that the chairman could not have done it. So I really appreciate everybody coming together. There aren't many of us who would come on from a doctor's office after suffering rather significant pain. So Terry, it's thanks to you that we had this meeting. Had you not done that, there would not have been a meeting, and we'd still be having to bring Truman on next month instead of this month. Let's just hope that this virus situation gets better and that City Council will let us go back into having our meeting in the chambers. Any other comments? Hearing none, I need a motion for adjournment.
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Walker,
Second.
second by Mr. Whitfield. We are adjourned. Thank you.